So in the boss fights, I noticed there was multiple aim points on the bosses. Can the player target each of these individually, and will targeting these have different effects?
Yeah, so the question was, can you, for the boss battle that we saw up here on screen, can you individually target the different points that the boss has, and does it make a difference? So on this individual boss, the different attack points are various places you can pick to attack on him, but they don't really make a huge difference in damage on them. However, in most of the bosses in the game, they have different attack points that can come available or turn off based on conditions the players have activated, and those attack points can do different amounts of damage to the boss. So, for example, there is a giant undead dragon boss that you may see on some of these screens at some point here, and there's a huge Asura mega laser that can fire at him and basically knock the dragon down and stun him for a little while. And when he's stunned, the attack point on his head actually takes about 2 times more damage than the guy normally takes when he's down like that. A lot of our bosses will take advantage of mechanics like that to open up additional attack points or to do additional damage to him based on those attack points.
It's the first time that I've seen airships in the new GamesCom trailer, and I would ask, have they a special meaning or just for show? We know that you can't fly on things because you want to show on the map itself, so perhaps events or...
Okay, so the question was basically how much of a role are airships going to play? So we will not have individually piloted airships, and we don't have airships for travel. But I can say that airships do play a very important role in certain encounters, and so they will. You will actually see airships play a role, particularly in certain situations in the personal story.
Okay, actually, he had the same questions. There were some people in the middle. I think you, then you.
Will we see any consent that involves illusion magic?
I think Eric heard it.
Yeah, so for people who saw, he asked if there was any content that we'll see that's illusion magic. So for anybody who saw videos of the dungeon, I think you saw there were already those undead mesmers in the dungeon that people with the undead monks, also the old Ascalonians. So there was a little illusion magic there.
I got actually 2 questions. What impact will be the social sympathy of the races you decide in your biography, and how do you explain that a human can walk into the Black Citadel? What impact will be the racial sympathy on the game, and how do you explain the human walking into the Black Citadel?
All right, so I guess 2 questions there. First one, what is the racial sympathies like? Are you asking about when you pick a lesser race that you're sympathetic towards, or the way that the races interact with each other?
Wie die Rassen untereinander miteinander gehen, oder wenn du dich für eine der geringeren Rassen entscheidest? When you pick one of the lesser races. Okay.
Yeah, so one of the questions that you get asked, we talked about your biography earlier, and how when you create a character, you get to answer questions that drive the personal story through, of your character through the game. There are additional questions you get asked later as you play through the game that create new personal story options for you. For example, one of the questions you get asked that this gentleman is asking about is there a race that a lesser race in the game that you feel sympathy for, like the ogres or the Hylic or the Skrit or the Quaggin or the Grawl? And the choice you make in that question actually determines the personal story experiences that you have with that race. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but I will say that it does involve dealing with them and their role in the game world based on that choice that you make. And the second question was, what are humans doing in the Black Citadel? There are not very many of them there. There are very, very few. However, the Charr have signed a ceasefire with the human nations, and they are not currently at war. So the Charr still don't really like the humans very much. Humans don't really like the Charr that much. But out of necessity of having to fight against the dragons and all the other dangers in the world, they've signed a somewhat unsteady truce to work together. So there are a few humans in Black Citadel. There are some members of the player organizations like the Vigil, the Derman Priory, and the Order of Whispers that are actually in the city actively recruiting there to try to get Charr to join their organizations. There are a few humans who actually end up there, and try to live there, but they are few and far between.
So we have time for like 2 more questions, like you, and then one from over there. It's like, yeah.
I was curious if the development team had ever been considered being tested for obsessive compulsive disorder. What? I was curious if the development team had ever considered being tested for obsessive compulsive disorder.
We really love our games a lot. I could say that much. We play them way too much and work on them probably way too much. I think our significant others would say. But we just love what we do. We come out to these game shows, and when we're not out here hanging with you guys, we go to all the other booths and try to play all of their games. So we're pretty much obsessed with games, and we just happen to make games too. So I guess we probably are all obsessively, compulsively in love with Guild Wars and ArenaNet.
Last question.
Yeah, I would like to know when it comes to armor values and weapon damage values. I'd like to know about weapon damage values or maximum values. It's going to be like in Guild Wars now, it's easy to get maximum value when you arrive to a certain point, or is it going to be slightly grindy to get to that value?
So it's about, in Guild Wars 1 it was very easy to get like a weapon with max damage stats. Will it be similar in Guild Wars 1, 2, or will it be different?
So it'll be pretty similar in Guild Wars 2 as it was in Guild Wars 1. One of the big differences in Guild Wars 1, I think you could often find a max damage weapon even before you got to level 20. I think I found one in the Crystal Desert my first playthrough. So since we've got a lot more levels, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but our philosophy is still that when you get to a level, it should be pretty easy to find that max damage weapon. And the other thing we don't want to do is force people to play a particular type of content in order to get max stat gear. So, for example, it's not going to be the case that dungeons are the only way to get max stat gear, or that crafting is the only way. What we want to try to do is have multiple pathways so that you don't feel like you have to play a type of content that maybe you didn't like playing while you were leveling. And so what we really try to do is put kind of unique appearances on all of those things. Very similar to Guild Wars 1.
Okay, then I say thank you to the two of you for taking like time out of your very, very busy schedule over. Really appreciated by everybody. A big hand for Colin Johanson and Eric Flannum.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Für euch noch viel Spaß hier weiter auf der Messe.